Well, St. Louis County is responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of over 3,000 miles of highways and roads. But state and federal funding isn't keeping up, and many of those roads are in rough shape. And so the county is considering a half-cent sales tax to help pay for road and bridge repair. Before the board votes on the issue, citizens will have a chance to voice their views. And so joining us now is Keith Nelson, St. Louis County Commissioner in the 6th District, and Pete Stauber represents the 5th District here in St. Louis County. Commissioners, thank you both for joining us. Commissioner Nelson, maybe you can give us a little bit of background on where the county currently gets its road funding and how that funding comes about.
The current road funding dollars that come to St. Louis County, we do get some federal road tax dollars. We get some dollars through the state MnDOT. And then, of course, there is the local levy roads that we support with local property tax dollars.
The majority coming from local taxes?
Actually, the majority of that comes through the federal and state, but of course, those local revenues have to be there to match those other dollars, or you don't get the state and federal dollars. Only once in my tenure of 12 years has the federal government enacted a transportation bill. Every other year it has been simply a reconsideration, or they just continuing action. And the same is true of the state of Minnesota. And that's where the funding cycles have dropped off so dramatically, and the dollars simply are not there from the state and federal sources.
Commissioner Stauber, talk about the condition of the roads and infrastructure in the county and why commissioners are considering this tax.
Well, Julie, we're looking at 1,500 miles in our county of paved roads, and right now we have about 33% that are in the pavements in poor driving condition. And one of the things that we consistently hear from the public is that our roads and bridges need to be better, and we also consider that as a public safety issue too. You know, public safety has been the #1 priority in St. Louis County, and of course transportation is part of that public safety.
So if you were to enact this tax, it would be a 0.5% sales tax throughout the county?
The percentage would be a 1/2 of 1% sales tax. It would be county-wide. It would generate somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 million to $10.5 million annually that would be dedicated 100% to road and road construction. Those dollars are strictly dedicated to that funding that infrastructure development.
That was one of my questions. So that monies cannot be taken and used for something else?
That is absolutely correct. These dollars will go 100% to road construction. So that, yes, it's going right into their transportation system. And the key to this with the sales tax, these dollars are then being derived from all of the users of the system. And that includes our visitors to the area. It includes all of the folks that are out there in St. Louis County are participating.
Most county roads are not in the city of Duluth. Pete, you represent people who are mostly Duluthians. How do you feel about that?
Well, actually, Dennis, I don't represent anybody within the city.
Oh, I see. Okay. You're on the fringe of the city.
Right. The 5th District used to, Dennis, on the western upper side of Duluth, but right now it's Hermantown and Proctor are the two cities in the other townships. But I'll give you an example. Just in my hometown of Hermantown, there's 57 miles of county roads that we want to maintain, and that extends out into the township. And we realize that the infrastructure, Dennis, is incredibly important to us. And we're finding right now at the federal level, we're not the funding isn't as stable as it should be. And that can go along at the state level as well. So when we look at whether we're going to, put this 0.5% sales tax forward, we look at what can we plan for the future for 15 to 20 years, and we have those projects that we're looking at to try to identify the best roads and keep them in great condition, and then improve the poorer surfaced roads.
Will there be some mechanism, though, to even out how those resources are spent so that Duluth, which will probably wind up putting a lot more money into the pot than some other parts of the county, will actually get some of that money returned?
Well, one of the things to remember, if you look back over the past 10 years within the city of Duluth, St. Louis County has spent nearly $48 million on county roads in the city of Duluth. We're projecting another $17 million that are actually in the schedule for the next 3 years. So we're talking about $67 million being spent within the city of Duluth. And I think what you're seeing is the very best roads that are currently within the city limits of Duluth are county roads. And it shows the dedication of our St. Louis County Board, and that includes those Duluth commissioners, the dedication to making certain that our infrastructure is first and foremost, and that safety, the safety of our motoring public, has to be a component part of every project that we do.
Highland and 57th Avenue West both opened today, I trust. They were scheduled to.
Yes.
Okay, they did. Was that mostly flood relief monies?
As I understand, some of it was flood relief money, but the majority was state money, and then the county, of course, put in some dollars as well. But if you've been down there, not only Highland, but if you've looked at 40th, which is some federal money as well, if you look at how those roads turned out and where they were prior to the construction, they're beautiful, and the public's going to be able to travel safer on those. So we're excited. We're very excited about those two projects.
Is the county pretty much caught up on all of the damage from the flood, or is this going to continue haunting us for years to come?
We truly wish that we were caught up on the flood damage. We really did our best to get out there and check every bridge, every culvert that was impacted negatively during that flood event. But the reality is that we're still seeing a lot of flood-related damage that is just showing up over a freeze-thaw cycle, over a couple of freeze-thaw cycles. And a lot of the dollars that we're looking at here are for those bridges and those large culverts. We're looking at targeting bridges that had a 40-year life cycle that were built in 1938. Now, are we a little bit behind? Yes, we are. And that's where these dollars, this is not a want. This is truly a need. And it's something that we've been bringing to our people for several months now, talking about that need.
Keith, I'm glad you brought up the bridges, because I was going to ask, are there a lot of bridges in St. Louis County, Pete and Keith, that do need attention?
Yes, there's about 600 and some bridges within the entire county, and we're looking at some of them are of timber made in, like Commissioner Nelson said, 1938. So we're looking at probably 15% of our wooden bridges need to be replaced. They're not carrying, they can't carry the loads that we'd like to carry across those bridges throughout the county, which has an impact on our economic growth. If you have businesses that have to spend mileage going around certain bridges because they can't hold the weight, doesn't bode well for our business community.
And we're looking at a picture of the new Brookston Bridge that just opened this week, I understand.
I see that. Isn't that beautiful?
Tremendous projects. Nearly just this Thursday and Friday, nearly $12 million worth of projects completed.
Yeah.
And these are much needed, much anticipated projects where we have been lobbied for some time to get these done.
Since news broke that the county is considering a 0.5% sales tax for roads and bridges, what are you hearing from your constituents?
Well, Dennis, we're gonna hold 2 public hearings, but I've had calls, and the actual majority of the people that I've spoken to or called the office are in favor of it. They understand that 0.5% sales tax will be dedicated, and they can't be used for anything else, and they're comfortable with that, knowing that we're going to be using that money for our roads and bridges to better our infrastructure for the safety of our traveling public.
Now, last year the county voted against the $10 wheelage tax. Is that something that could come back if it proves that the sales tax isn't enough money?
Yeah, certainly the wheelage tax is an issue that could be brought back by a commissioner, but the reality is that the wheelage tax was impactful only on our citizens. It was not truly representative of the users of our road system. That is where this differs dramatically, in the sense that the 30 to 40%, we believe 30 to 40% of the sales tax dollars generated will be coming from people that use our roads that don't pay property taxes here.
I.e. tourists?
I.e. tourists, i.e. folks coming in that, Duluth is a tremendous regional center, and it draws people from all over to shop and spend recreational time here, as well as the outlying area. We have a tremendous amount of visitors. Now they will be participating in this. When we talk about dollars and cents, the truth is the wheelage is a very, very small amount when you compare it to sales tax. It's less than 1/10 of sales tax.
You talked about the tourists, and there have been some suggestions that maybe the tax could only be put in place during tourism season and maybe phased out when mostly locals would be paying it. Is that an option?
I'm going to take that question because as the chair of finance and budget, sitting next to the board vice chair and future chair of our board, I'll take that question. We had thought about that, but the truth is that the mechanism for that does not exist within the State Department of Finance, which is where this tax will be collected along with all other sales tax.
Should the sales tax go through, when would this be implemented, do you think? What's the earliest?
April 1st of 2015 would be the date that it would be implemented if our county board acts on this prior to the end of this year.
I see. Okay. Appreciate you both being here. We're out of time already, so Pete and Keith, thank you very much for being here tonight.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having us.